Greetings, everyone. Welcome to 9 a.m. Eastern Time. It's time for your morning meeting. I'm Mark Halpern here. Two great guest co-hosts with us today, Haima Moore and Kristen Davison. You've seen them both before. Kristen, welcome. Haima will be here in just a moment. Very grateful to have you all be part of this. Is based on the Network News Division's morning meetings. We'll run through the day book, and then talk about some stuff, including the president's 90-minute plus speech last night in Pennsylvania, in which he was laser focused on the economy, the way I'm laser focused on Australian rules rugby, which is to say he wasn't all that laser focused. But we'll look at some of the coverage and we'll talk about what it means going forward for at a time when pretty much every Republican I know thinks it would be good to focus on affordability and deal not just with the rhetoric of costs, but also the reality. So we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about the Fed, healthcare, the election for the Miami mayor, Russia, Ukraine, and a developing subplot, ladies and gentlemen, which is Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris. Can they both run? Kamala Harris did a long interview with the New York Times, which has got people, at least in my world, thinking again she's going to be a candidate for president, which some people doubted. So we'll see. Haima, welcome in. Thank you both for being here. Haima, tell me your best Kamala Harris story. Tell us all, not just me, but
Oh
your
man,
best, like not a super long one, but like,
no,
there was the time you went fishing or
no. This is probably apropos of her personality. We were in New Orleans, I think in 2018 or 2019. She was getting ready to meet the now current new mayor of New Orleans, Elena Moreno. She goes in the elevator. Tell me everything you know about her.
right before the meeting.
Right before the meeting,
What'd you say?
I said the five things I knew about her. She was like,
Yeah,
"Great, let's go." Now they're best
awesome.
of buds. Yeah.
Good staff work. All right, Kristen, what's your best Gavin Newsom story?
Hmm. I don't know. I feel like there was a story of him during COVID where he was in, I mean, what's that really expensive restaurant?
French Laundry.
It's laundry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that story. And I just remember talking to Republican operatives. There was a whole effort to follow him the entire duration of COVID to find out where.
Yeah.
Uh, and so you had these,
That's a good research project.
these
Uh, so,
crackers.
so you've never met him, right?
No, no.
Do you think it's possible if you met him, you would find him to be charming and authentic? Do you think that's possible?
I don't know about authentic, but I feel like he is pushing the boundary that he's so choreographed that is his authenticity, if that makes sense. So it's
Yeah.
kind of went all the way around that now he's back there. I think I'd
Interesting.
like him, to be honest. I think he would be, to sit down and talk. I think he's doing a decent job at distancing himself from the evil California, far left policies that people try to paint him as. I don't know if voters in South Carolina, New Hampshire, and Iowa will necessarily agree, but he's doing a decent job of humanizing himself. So
Yeah, interesting. Well, he watches the show on occasion, so perhaps he'll call you now and treat you like you're, right-wing pundit and invite you on his podcast or whatever. Very
Well,
grateful to have Kristen. Go ahead, Haima. Go ahead. What are you going to
I
say?
was like, he's more charming than you would even imagine, Kristen.
Yes, he is. He
I bet.
is.
I
He
bet.
is. As we say in Arkansas, he can talk the owls down from the trees. Grateful to have you both here, and I'll run through the day book, and we'll get to it. And again, if you're here on the platform, want to ask questions, raise your hand. If you're watching on YouTube, just don't put smack in the chat. Think about peace, love, understanding. Put stuff in the chat that's consistent with the ethos of two-way rather than the ethos of a sewer. There you go. No smack in the chat, as they say. All right, run through the day book. Here we go. The president's got a couple events on his schedule today, about which we know very little. One is 2 o'clock, closed press, participates in a roundtable. And this goes back to if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there. If the president does a roundtable on an unspecified topic and there's no media there, what happens? Maybe they'll open it up. And then he's greeting pastors, unnamed pastors at 5 o'clock. I hope my pastor's there because he's leaks to me like a sieve. So that's the president's day. Don't know what the vice president's doing. Pete Hegseth is meeting today with our ally, the defense minister from Australia and Britain. This is part of the AUKUS defense alliance. Got to give credit to the Biden administration that started beefing up support and military capability in the region to help try to contain China. One of the big accomplishments on that front, and the current president and administration have continued that. The Hill is a hotbed of activity today. If I told you everything that's going on up there, we'd spend the whole hour. But just briefly, House Republicans and Democrats are holding their weekly separate meetings. House Republicans news conference at 10, Democratic House leaders news conference at 10:45. Chuck Schumer, a health insurance press conference, press briefing at 10:15 in advance of tomorrow's expected vote on two bills, both of which will fail. We know what the Democratic bill is. The House or the Republican bill is they're still working on that to exactly what it's going to look like. And tonight, this afternoon at 3:00, a bipartisan event. What could bring Mike Johnson, Chuck Schumer, and Hakeem Jeffries together for a single event? Well, yes, you guessed it. It's the congressional menorah lighting that takes place at 3:00. Presumably, Senator Schumer will take the lead on that. That's just a guess. And the House is moving towards final passage on the defense bill, the NDAA. They hope to do that at 4:00. Fed expected to cut rates today. We'll hear from Chairman Powell after the 2:00 announcement on rates. We'll hear from him at 2:30. Supreme Court's hearing a couple more cases. President Zelensky is supposed to unveil a new plan, a new vision for a peace plan today, and we'll see what that yields. All right, a quick word from a sponsor, then we're going to start talking about the president and the economy. This is from our friends at Cozy Earth, who still are offering you 40% off. I don't know why they persist in giving you 40% off. It's because they're so damn nice. And you're so lucky, 40% off everything. Towels, blankets, pillows, bubble cuddle blanket, the shirts, the pants, everything 40% off. Give the gift of softness, comfort, luxury, and affordable price, 40% off. Go to CozyEarth.com, promo code 2WMM to get 40% off everything on the site. If you haven't yet bought the pants, fellas, you're making a big mistake. Go right now, CozyEarth.com, promo code 2WMM, 40% off. If you order now, you'll get the full discount, but the discount's going down. Don't tell them I told you this. In 2 days, the discount's plummeting. So go now if you want to save 40%. You got 2 days to do it. If you get the post-purchase survey, tell them you heard about Cozy Earth right here in the morning meeting. Give the gift of comfort that lasts beyond the holidays and carries into a cozy new year. Thank you for your attention to that matter. All right, last night, the president spoke as widely expected. He talked a little bit about affordability. As widely expected, the media chose to focus on the parts of the speech that weren't about affordability, including his attack on a member of Congress in starkly personal terms, and lots of weaves. Here's some headlines, all covered pretty much the same way. This is, which one is this, Paul? This is the headlines. There you go. Philadelphia Inquirer, Trump strays from script at Pocono's rally, calling affordability a hoax, and Pennsylvania a dumping ground for immigrants. Not on message there. Morning Call, a paper in Pennsylvania. Trump savages rivals, touts economic record at packed Mount Airy rally. Here's another one. This is the Pocono Record. Trump slams stupid people, defends economic record in Pennsylvania rally. Next, Times Tribune, another Pennsylvania paper. Trump savages rivals, touts economic record at packed rally. Here's one more, the BBC, because the White House communication shop is obsessed with the BBC coverage. Trump's upbeat message on economy as Americans feel the pinch. Here is a sampling of coverage. This is some cable news coverage, some broadcast coverage, some local TV coverage of how the president's speech was treated by the media.
Coming up, President Trump back on the road. More on his rally in Pennsylvania last night as he seeks to reset perceptions about the economy.
All right, new this morning, the question that will confound metaphysicists for generations. Is it an affordability tour if you don't like talking about affordability? Overnight, President Trump held a campaign-style rally in Pennsylvania that was billed as the first stop on his tour to talk about affordability concerns among Americans. But he could not seem to do it without calling the entire notion a hoax.
Let's get to our top story. President Trump's speech last night in Pennsylvania that was supposed to be about affordability, but instead he mocked the term itself and over the course of 90 minutes delivered his usual campaign-style rally.
This morning, President Trump confronting the number one concern for voters, the rising cost of living.
At a Tuesday night rally in Pennsylvania, President Donald Trump claimed the economy has drastically improved during his second term.
And this week, President Trump hit the campaign trail in Pennsylvania, claiming his economic policies are working.
But folks in one of the very states that helped put him back in the White House last year say that they're still feeling squeezed by higher prices.
President Trump kickstarting his affordability push last night in Pennsylvania as his chief of staff says he's going to campaign for the midterms like 2024.
All right. I don't know why people tell me it's too early for Democrats to start running for president, because Governor Beshear and Governor Shapiro, every day now, they're out there running for president. Here's Governor Beshear on MS Now I said MS now. I do not need to put $40,000 in the swear jar. Critiquing the president's speech. And this is a very similar message to what you heard from others. Governor Beshear, number 108.
But I'll tell you
please.
what, if Donald Trump wants to say that affordability is a hoax, if he wants to say that the economy is perfect, I hope he goes to every battleground state, every major campaign that we've got a gubernatorial contest in next year, and he brings that big tariff board, because people know it's not true. People know he's made life harder on them. And if he wants to get out there and be that out of touch with reality, I hope he'll do it.
Okay. So, Kristen, let's play act a little bit. You're Susie Wiles, and the president walks into your office now, and he says, "Hey, Kristen, I didn't have time to sample the coverage. How'd we do?" What would you tell the president? And what would he said? Sorry, I'm revising and extending. How'd we do, and what can we do better? What would you tell him?
Well, we had headlines wall to wall. Everyone's talking about it today. So great work. Everyone's talking about the speech today. No one's talking about the special elections in Miami or Georgia last night. We're all talking about the economy. That's great. Maybe, next time, let's just make sure we don't say the word hoax. We don't need it. It's not not good to the message. But overall, brilliant evening. They loved you. The coverage is great. Excellent work.
All right, that's excellent. And if he says hoax, of course, now he does it in a very meta way. He says, "They tell me not to say hoax, but I'm still going to say it." Jaime, the president is going to do what he's going to do. So my question to you is, how do you feel your party did in responding, not just Governor Beshear, but overall?
Yeah, look, we talked about this a little bit last week on the bracketing. I thought the Pennsylvania Democrats did a fantastic job of bracketing the president. I mean, one, what we would call this an unclean story, because we're talking about everything but the president and his message directly. We talked about Governor Shapiro 4 times already this morning, and that's the intent of bracketing. And so Governor Shapiro put out some really scathing statements and did some press ahead of the president's visit. He did not meet him on the tarmac like Gavin Newsom did during the wildfires. But what the governor said is, look, you may say whatever you want to say today in this speech, but the reality is people are hurting, and people are hurting because, and that for some reason, this president can't admit things that are true. Costs are high. No one's necessarily blaming the president right now. He still has a lot of time to take credit for fixing the economy and getting costs up and getting costs down and wages up. But he won't admit that it is a problem. And so Governor Shapiro hit right at that. And he had some backup from the mayor of Philadelphia. He had some backup from Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis. And so it was a great day for bracketing for the Democrats of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, the sub-theme of Governor Shapiro trying to show he can run Pennsylvania politics really well as a calling card. I totally agree, Jaime. They did a very good, very professional job. How do I phrase this? The president is undisciplined, and nobody expected it. We talked yesterday about how long it would be. It was as long as anybody could imagine. It was 90 minutes, and as always happens, he is as entertaining as he can be. You could see it in the crowd. Robert's going to nod his head because he was there. The crowd was not fully engaged through the full 90 minutes. It's just too long. Robert disagrees, maybe, I don't know. I just watching on TV. Now, here's the thing that I was watching for. He didn't offer anything new. There were no things saying, here's how we're going to go forward and address. Like, again, Kristen, is this not just 101? Like, say, here's what we're going to do on housing. Here's what we're going to do on energy. With some specificity, or is that not necessary?
I don't think it's necessary for a Trump rally, right? I mean, I've been to enough of these. I think they are a rallying event where people that, even the most ardent supporters tend to, if they have something to do, they're going to leave before the 97 minutes is up. It is a performance, right? So it's not necessarily a policy rollout. I think that the White House team and the advance team did a decent job of putting the message in the surrounding, higher paychecks, lower cost, I think is what it said. And so I don't think they needed to unveil anything new. I think now taking all of the focus on the speech, and that he's, every news organization is going to want to write that he's talking about it. Now maybe the White House can say, well, hey, we're also going to try this. This is new. Like, try to catapult off of the hook of the rally. I don't know necessarily if people would even pay attention if Trump had unveiled something new, because it's a performance. I mean, that's why people go to the and they love him and they enjoy him. And that's
Yeah,
what he gets.
Jaime, just to be clear, I'm not saying he should have like long paragraphs about like the details, but why not just some bullet points of and maybe teeing up the State of the Union to say, you know, we're gonna. I mean, and maybe I'm wrong, but it just seemed to me if you're gonna call it a hoax, if you're gonna talk about people should have no more than $2, if you're gonna attack a member of Congress, if you're gonna do all this weave stuff, you're gonna not get headlines that are specific. But if he had said, we're gonna make mortgages more affordable by doing X or whatever, I feel like that might have gotten coverage, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think it was actually a missed opportunity for the president to. I mean, when he ran for a second term, he talked about bringing costs down on day one. I mean, we all knew that was not possible, but he said it. And I think we have the right as American people to hold this president accountable to what he said. He campaigned on it. He campaigned on costs being too high, costs of going up. I mean, while inflation is starting to wane a little bit, rent is not going to go down. Mortgages are not going to go down. And so I think we have to be honest with the American people and say we have a new economy we're trying to usher in. AI is going to be a big deal. Energy costs are going to rise, but the president is going to do everything he can to bring those costs down. And I think he's got to say every lever he can possibly pull to bring these costs down, he's going to do it. Now, what I do think the Republicans have that we did not have when Joe Biden was president, you guys know I love Joe Biden, but Joe Biden was never able to articulate a message on any day. And so, and Donald Trump's able to do that. And when he misses an opportunity like last night, it's sort of sad because he can really drive the message home in a way that we didn't have a president that was able to do. And so I kind of envy that, but I also, he didn't do it last night.
Well, I think the biggest thing, Trump's not on the ballot, right? So it was good to drive the people who are on the ballot. So like Congressman Bresnahan, that's his district, the mayor of Scranton, where they were, she's running against him. I think that's going to be a top, probably if not the top congressional race, one of the top 5 in the country. And I think that they now, both candidates, I didn't see the mayor of Scranton do anything to really make her case. If I were running her campaign, I would have had people out in front of the rally with news cameras, having them explain why they couldn't afford to buy Christmas gifts this year, or why they had to work a second shift on Thanksgiving.
Yep.
I didn't see that from her. I saw a few tweets. So that was a missed opportunity from the Democrat candidate there. But likewise, I also didn't see the Republican incumbent. I don't even think he tweeted from his campaign account that he was there.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. One more thing about the president distracting from his own message. Last night after the rally, I think after he got home, he did this post on Truth Social. I wish I could read the whole thing to you, but I would be tuckered out. 202A. Paul, can we blow that up? I'm going to be able to read it. It's a really long post, and it's about he writes about the 8 wars that he's well, the first line, there's never been a president that has worked as hard as me, ! So that's the thesis statement of the post. He works hard. He solved 8 wars. Next slide. Then he writes about got out of my way to do long, thorough, and very boring medical examinations. So he complains that in order to satisfy the American public's interest in his health, he goes to Walter Reed and he takes long medical exams. Another off-message thing. Next, he does talk about the economy in here, but then he says, the New York Times and others to consistently do fake reports in order to libel and demean the President of the United States. They're true enemies of the people. So now he's on that. Is that the last one, or is there one more? I think there's at least one more. It's a very long post, ladies and gentlemen. You got one more slide? Maybe not. Anyway, the point is, he gets home and he doesn't post on the economy. He posts on, or at least not exclusively on the economy. All right, the Fed, the Wall Street Journal told everybody last week or maybe the week before, Kevin Hassett's going to be chair of the Fed. I think this whole thing is an overrated factor, because whoever the chair of the Fed's going to be is probably going to cut interest rates, and whether they do or not is not going to make or break anything. But in any event, a lot of focus in the financial press about this. Today, the Journal shifts course a little bit and says Trump plans final interviews with Fed chair candidates in coming days. The president said it would be looking at a couple of different people for Fed chair. This is after he previously said he already knew he was going to pick Kevin Warsh. The other Kevin is supposedly one of the people he's interviewing. It remains the case, according to my reporting, that the sweet spot is someone who Scott Bessent thinks has the stature to be Fed chair and the ability to do the job, and someone who the president trusts. And finding that person has proven to be very difficult. So, Jaime, do you think it's going to be Kevin Hassett, or is it now all totally up in the air?
I still think it's going to be Kevin Hassett. I think I don't agree with the process by which the president got here and the reason for him trying to unseat the chair. But it's provocative. He appointed the chair. the current chair, 6 years ago. He has the right to do it. So I'm not going to spend time, wasting time browbeating the president for exercising his duty. But it's going to look, like you said, it's not going to do much. The rates may go down a little bit, but that is not the thing that we need, the lever that we need to pull to change the economic outlook for Americans right now.
Are Democrats, are they going to hit, if you were, advising them, are they going to hit Trump for changing horses there and appointing somebody? I mean, you could paint it as he's appointing someone who's going to do what he says. So I don't think Democrats should take the bait. Do you think they will and make a stake about it?
Chris, they will. They will. Yeah. And like I'm unfortunately I'm not advising them on that. Hopefully they're listening right now. They're going to take the bait on that. They're going to continue to take the bait on HeadSec, and they're going to continue to lose the narrative on cost and affordability in healthcare. All right, let's talk about healthcare. Again, there's going to be a Senate vote tomorrow, probably on this provision that is not going to pass. And then the House Republicans at this hour are ostensibly hearing from the leadership about a plan that's going to be voted on. But nothing will become law, because nothing that passes the House is going to be considered in the Senate. And so the subsidies, the Obamacare subsidies, will expire. Here's the Washington Post headline: Senate Republicans disappeared. Anyway, they're going to offer. Here it comes back. Senate Republicans offer counterproposal on Obamacare. They're both expected to fail, as I said. So, Kristen, your party will be left with the Democrats voting unanimously for extending the subsidies, not passing anything to extend the subsidies in either chamber. Some Democrats think, from a political point of view, that's a great outcome. Are you worried, if assuming this is the outcome and we head into the new year with the Obamacare subsidies expiring, are you worried that that's going to hurt your party politically?
I mean, 100%. I feel like I have voiced my heartburn over healthcare for months. And it's not just me. I mean, I talked to members, I talked to other consultants. Like, everyone is kind of saying, we need to figure this out. There's a leak in the basement and no one is fixing it. And I mean, right now we have 4 different proposals in the Senate, and none of them are going to get to 60. I mean, I think that the best sign of cohesion is probably the House bill that Congresswoman Kiggins and the Democrat, I'm going to mispronounce his last name, Gothmeier, I think, have put forth. Because here, I mean, for Republicans, I really think we can't just say we can't extend anything. Right. That's a non-starter. We're not going to get the votes on that. We can't just say we can't extend anything. We can't leave, millions of, I mean, Josh Hawley last night, I think, did a press conference or interview and said probably one of the best I've heard on this, basically saying there's a human cost to this. And as Republicans, we can't forget it. Meanwhile, Democrats also can't just say, we have to ignore the fraud. I mean, the watchdog report that came out last week that saw how many people, I think it was like thousands of Social Security numbers were used on multiple different, applications for it. Like, we all have to find something to come together on it. If Republicans say we're not going to extend it, non-starter. If Democrats say we're not going to touch fraud, like, non-starter. So I think the House bill with Kiggins and Gothmeier is probably the most optimistic one I see right now, because it addresses both of those concerns. But I mean, but
is the leadership going to put that on the floor, or that's going to be a discharge petition?
I don't know. We'll see. Right. Well, yeah. I hope they put it to the floor. I think there is a lot of pressure, not publicly, but I from talking to different folks up there is a lot of pressure being put to do something that shows, that takes a vote there. I think, we will get tripped up on some of the pro-life pushes, that's started for Democrats. I think we need to figure out another way to achieve those goals without being in this bill. Yeah. I'm very nervous about it.
If the minority leaders, if Schumer and Jeffries said to you, you're in charge of the war room, we want a bill, figure out how to get a bill to the president's desk that extends the subsidies, and we're willing to have some of these conditions to deal with the allegations of fraud and the caps and all that. Would you start in the House, or would you start in the Senate, and would you look for one of these mini gangs to do it? How would you do it?
Look, I was starting in the Senate for sure. Look, my hometown senator, Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, who's facing a almost insurmountable reelection because the Republicans and the president have decided to not support him in the way that he should be supported. He's been screaming at the top of the mountain to fix healthcare since he's been in the Senate. And so I would bring Bill Cassidy to the table with some Democrats, Patty Murray and people like that, who have reasonable interests in getting this across the finish line. and I would put together a package. I think I like Josh Gottheimer. I don't know Rep. Higgins well. I think Josh Gottheimer has emerged as a really smart, centrist, no BS sort of member. But I would start in the Senate, and I think Chuck Schumer has the moxie right now to get his caucus in a place to present a bill that will have some compromise. At the end of the day, we have to compromise. And to Kristen's point, we're not going to be able to, if Democrats have got to continue to prove that they are for healthcare, for lowering costs. But to Kristen's point, they can't be for waste, fraud, and abuse. Yeah. And that's the fine line that we've got to walk.
Yeah, I would say two more things on healthcare. Then we're going to talk to the Miami mayor's race. One is Senator Cassidy has said what the president hasn't endorsed against him, and Senator Cassidy said the other day he doesn't think the president is going to endorse against him. So maybe it's not full on love, but given that he supported conviction in the Senate, pretty, I think, notable that the president hasn't endorsed against him yet. And number two, this is going to be hard. This is hard to do. The notion that it was going to happen with a bunch of ad hoc mini gangs was ridiculous. Yeah. I don't understand why the White House is passive, because now what they're going to do is they're going to go into January with Democrats for the rest of the year and into the new year saying this is Republicans' fault. And the press is going to talk to more and more people whose premiums are skyrocketing and whose healthcare coverage is being taken away. It does seem like political malpractice. And every consultant I know said what Kristen said. Another thing every Republican consultant I know is saying is these election results are not good. You can sugarcoat them all you want, but what happened on Election Day in November, what happened in the special election in Tennessee, and then what happened yesterday, first time in almost 30 years, Miami elected a Democratic mayor. It's an area that's been trending red on some levels, but it's always and it's a blue stronghold. But Miami itself has been a long time. Eileen Higgins, she had the support of Pete Buttigieg, Rahm Emanuel, a bunch of national Democrats, and the president tried to get the Republican over the finish line and failed. Here's an honest Republican, an honest conservative, I should say, Eric Erickson. Here's what he says about these midterm results, 114, in his excellent Substack, which you subscribe to if you don't. Now, we can all go through the litany of excuses both sides use in these special elections, but the pattern is consistent from Mississippi to Miami to Georgia to New York. Republicans are not motivated to show up. You saw that also in a special House state legislative race in Georgia, in a very red area where the Democrat won. So Eric Erickson's saying publicly what Republican consultants would say privately. Kristen, I'll start with you because it's your party. People are, it's not quite panic, but I would say deep concern. What are people looking for besides the president to talk effectively about the economy? What else do Republicans say you need to stave off what is currently going to be a very bad midterm under these current conditions?
Right. Well, when I talk to other consultants, one of the biggest frustrations is we have these special elections. We know they're going to be low turnout for the most part. Only 36,000 people voted in Miami last night, or in yesterday's election.
36,000
total.
Wow, that's nuts.
And it's crazy when you have.
That's like a student council election.
I think more people probably voted in my senior year, class president.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Wow. Okay.
We know that, and yet we line up leaders like Governor DeSantis, President Trump, everyone to go to bat for the candidate, but then we don't go the next step and get people on the ground. We tweet about it. We put things out. Again, it's the biggest frustration when you see, the same thing with the House seat in Georgia, talking to folks there. There really wasn't a boots on the ground effort to get the folks to turn out. So of course that's going to happen. And again, it comes back to, we need to fully embrace this idea that this election is going to be, one half turnout, get people out, and one half persuasion. And we have to do both well, and we have to walk and chew gum. And so tactically, that's a frustrating thing to watch as a strategist. And my old boss, Karl Rove, last week in his column wrote, we can't do that in every race next year. That's going to be our issue. So Tennessee, we were able to pull off because we went all in, outspent Democrats by $1 million, had, tons of people on the ground knocking doors. We won't be able to have the bandwidth to do that.
But why isn't that happening? Your party has money. You've got party committees. Like, why isn't it happening?
Oh, I could think that, I think sometimes people they assume it's going to be okay. People get complacent. I think in some races there's a little bit of complacency, and some there's a genuine shock that, it's not going to turn. But ultimately, you have to prioritize. And I think, maybe a special election is not on the top of the priority list,
Right,
which is
right.
totally understandable.
Haima, we've said here, and it's conventional wisdom, that one of the benefits in theory of these types of victories is candidate recruitment and fundraising. So where and when will we see that? Like, I've not heard of any new recruits. I've not heard of anybody boasting about major fundraising off of these. So is that happening and we just don't know about it?
Yeah, look, I think, well, I completely agree with Kristen. I think the MAGA party does really well. The Republican Party doesn't do as well. That's going to be something the Republicans have to contend with next year. But on the Democratic side, look, you look at Florida. Nikki Fried, who is the new, or she's been there for a few years now, but she's the state party chair. She was the agriculture secretary. She ran against DeSantis for governor. She's a firecracker. She is well organized. She's very smart. And whenever Jamie Harrison and I went down there a few years ago to have her own board meeting with her, she said she's going to run somebody in every election in Florida every time.
But I got to stop you there, because there's no Senate candidate in Florida.
Well, they're working on it.
Well, but again, there's no Senate candidate in Florida. There's no Senate candidate in Kansas. Are those easily winnable? No. But if there's a blue wave, you could win those two states. There's been a Democratic governor. But I'm just saying, shouldn't the DNC be putting out a press release saying, in the wake of these dramatic victories, we've just recruited this, football coach, veteran, to run in race X, Y, and Z. Maybe that's happening, but I've not heard about any of that. Or they should be putting out a press release that says, we just raised $20 million online after the special election. You know what I'm saying?
I do think some of that's happening, but I think from a candidate recruitment perspective, you guys know this, it's very difficult to recruit those sort of candidates who have money, who have name ID, who want to put themselves out there and get their families eviscerated just for the sake of quote unquote saving the democracy. Yeah. And so we look, qualifying for a lot of these states won't be until January, February, some in March. And so there's still a lot. Chuck Schumer is still trying to recruit a bunch of folks from Florida and Kansas. And so you will see some things roll out in the next couple of weeks, I believe. Okay. But I think you're right. I think the DNC probably should do a little bit more to tout this. But I think what they don't want to do, Mark, is Ken Martin doesn't want to come on TV and say, oh, we've figured everything out and we're winning all the elections now and the Democratic Party is back.
He is putting out press releases that rhyme with what you just said.
Yeah, but not quite fully that, because I think we got to both inspire people and say that the party is in a better place. And so if you are a Democrat and you have voted for us traditionally, come back home and do that. But to Kristen's point, there's got to be some persuasion that we're trying to do as well. There's still that small sliver of people that both parties are trying to persuade, and it's getting a little bit bigger as we see these elections progress. Yeah.
Dip into CNN. Well, Kristen, go ahead, but dip into CNN. Rahm's talking about banning social media for children. Go ahead, Kristen.
Iowa's one that you should watch, just in terms of, I think the Democratic candidate there for governor, I believe, is pretty solid. that's one I'm going to continue to watch.
If it's a blue year, Democrats could win both governor and Senate potentially. Can we listen to Rahm for a second or not? I just find it interesting. Rahm's paid by CNN, and now he's on there touting something he'd run for president. I find that a little unorthodox.
Social media, or you're going to help parents do the job of being a parent. Right now, every parent feels hopeless in the fight against something that is more addictive than the homework, which is the telephone.
Regulating tech, taking on, regulating the internet. I mean, that is not where Congress is on the forefront, or Washington has really ever been on the forefront.
That's the understatement.
At least today. If you work from the basis that the ban will do good, politically, I'm curious what you think about it. Is this a reaching across the aisle type of issue where you think there is consensus on this? Or do you see this as a space where Democrats can carve out? Like, is running against big tech a winner today and in future elections?
I love when they treat him like a strategist
so let's
rather
deal
than
with the first part of the question.
All right, dump out of this. Let me both ask you a question. Tomorrow on Next Up, I'm doing my 8 for 28, the top possible Democratic presidential campaign nominees in order, most likely to least likely. And here's the question I want to ask you guys to help me do some of my final reporting here. Who's more likely to be the Democratic nominee? I'm not asking about the general. Who's more likely to be the Democratic nominee, Rahm or Governor Pritzker? Haima.
Governor Pritzker, I hope. But no, I love Rahm Emanuel. But
I understand. But you
guys,
think Governor
you guys
Pritzker?
know, he's a great governor. He has a wonderful sort of personal story on how he approaches, even though he's a billionaire, he approaches democracy and capitalism in a way that I've never seen a billionaire do, and I really love him.
Kristen, Rahm or Governor Pritzker?
I agree. I think Governor Pritzker. I really think Rahm should go and run the campaign of whoever the nominee is. Like that's how.
Spoiler alert: Governor Pritzker is not currently in my top 8. Just so you know.
You got to change that, Mark. You got to change that.
Some people say I have to change it, but some people don't. We'll see. Maybe I will. Thank you for your input. All right, Russia, Ukraine. This is like the 5th day in a row. I cannot believe that this is not the top story in the world. It's just such high stakes. I just want everybody to go read David Ignatius's column, Outsmart the Washington Post paywall if you need to. I interviewed David on Next Up yesterday, and he said he couldn't tell me everything he was working on because he hadn't quite nailed it down. Between the time I interviewed him, it was a great interview. He said a lot of interesting things, but between the time I interviewed and he had to file, here's his column. The outlines of sustainable Ukraine peace deal inch into view. Trump's tilt toward Russia isn't helping, but there's still a path to a reasonable endgame. David, buried in his column is better reporting than you see anywhere else, literally in the world, about the current state of things. Zelensky's, in theory, coming back with another counteroffer today. But David lays out more clearly than I've seen anywhere else what's in it that actually makes it a decent deal for Ukraine. There's still this sticking point about territory. But read David's comment. It shows you all the things they're getting in terms of economics, in terms of some security guarantees, in terms of how the buffer zones will exist within the country. Absolutely must read it. Just a daily temperature here on this, Kristen. Bullish or bearish on a deal by the end of the year? Bullish or bearish?
I'm still pretty skeptical. I just don't. The article was very good, and it shows a path. I just, to your point, it's not in the news every day. I don't know if this is top priority every day for the people who need to get it done. Right?
Haima?
Yeah,
bullish or bearish?
I was bullish, but now I get more bearish every day.
After reading David's column, I went from bearish to bullish. I'm now bullish again. I now can see the possibility of a deal. And Zelensky, despite the president chopping him off in the Politico interview, Zelensky's still being pretty accommodating, at least rhetorically. We'll see. Yeah. Still less likely than not, but I think it's a rising possibility. All right. 2 more topics, and then to your question. So again, please raise your hand. This second to last one's a very short one. Chairman Wicker. Again, I want a countdown clock of number of days. We still haven't heard from Chairman Wicker. Chairman Wicker is the powerful chairman of the Powerful Armed Services Committee. He has still not said what he wants to do in terms of the second tap. He hasn't said what he wants to do in terms of investigating it or what his point of view about it is. He's been a Hegseth skeptic publicly and privately for a long time. His counterpart in the House, the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, said, we're done. We don't need to investigate the second tap. Wicker is quiet. Kristen, or Haima, you first. Is Wicker going to come out and say something ever? Or you think he's just kind of slow walk it and he'll never speak out again to Hegseth? Which one?
I think he'll slow walk it. I think he's trying to see what else comes out, and if the president and the secretary will release this video. I don't think he's been very clear on how he feels about Secretary Hegseth even during the confirmation process. So I don't think he's going to beat a dead horse, and he's a good Republican and a good party member. So I don't think he's going to have an undue statement on this. Yeah. But I think once the video comes out and once there starts to be a groundswell around that, then I think he may say something. But I don't think he's going to say something right now. It doesn't behoove him to.
Kristen?
I agree. If I'm in his office, I'm waiting to see where this goes. It's Christmas. There's a lot of news. Is this going to stay on the front page every day? If it's not, then why do I have to rock the boat, right? Like, we can handle this another way. I don't have to cause the party or the president undue heartburn. But, I do think if it gets to the point where it continues to be heated and he is pushed, he's not going to be shy about what he believes on it.
My spidey sense continues to be he's going to say something. That's my spidey sense, because the body language is screaming to me.
Well, Mark, you were correct. I think Chris and I both were saying that we would stop talking about this over the weekend.
Oh, I was too polite to remind you guys. We've been talking about it all week, but yes. All right. Last topic. People have assumed in the Gang of 500 that Kamala Harris wasn't going to run for president, and so Gavin Newsom wasn't going to have to deal with all the complexities if they both ran. But this interview she did with the New York Times has people deluging me with not just questions about it, but also saying they think she's going to run. And she talked about Gavin Newsom in the interview It's a couple days old, but if you haven't read it, you should. Here's what she said about Governor Newsom, in her interview at the New York Times. Can she envision a President Newsom? She was asked, quote, he has to make that decision if he wants to first. I think Gavin is very talented. I really do. And I think we have many talented people. Now, Gavin Newsom did like I said earlier, Gavin Newsom and Governor Shapiro are both out there like a lot. Governor Bashir too. And he did an interview with Ezra Klein of the New York Times for his podcast. It's so wonky and boring. We looked it's like an hour. We looked for like an interesting soundbite to play. Literally nothing, because they just wonked out on abundancy or whatever that thing is called. Is that what it's called? Abundancy? Is that what it is? Abundance. Anyway, forget that. But we played this entire video last night on Two-Way Tonight. But because some of you didn't see it, this is Gavin Newsom. It's a slickly produced 2-minute video about his memoir that's coming out next year. Here's a little bit of it, just to give you a sense of this. And again, I find the irony here. A guy who's trying to convince people this book will convince you he's not slick is telling you that in a slickly produced video with slick music. Roll that, please.
This is not the book you'd expect me to write. It's a story about the people that, for, well, better or worse, make us who we are, made me who I am. The hopes that drive us forward, the failures that send us reeling, and the immense burden of grief and regret. Nobody's family is easy. Nobody's story is tidy, and I'm no different. A lot of people look at me, the stark white shirt, the blue suit, and yeah, the gelled hair, and they think, oh, I know this guy. I know this guy better than I'd ever want to know him. I get it. This is a story of a kid who always felt like he wasn't quite enough. This is a truly vulnerable book. It was incredibly hard, even painful to write. It's a story about living between two worlds, one of wealth and privilege, and the other.
Taima, if you were his top political aide, would you have approved that cut, or would you have asked it to be redone?
I don't know. There's some cognitive dissonance that I think Gavin Newsom is starting to ironically use, and I think he look, he's very astute, he's very smart. I think he knows what he's doing, so he wouldn't have done this not understanding the intention behind it. He's just a brilliant guy. So I think he's like, look, I'm going to say these things, but I'm going to look like this. And people are going to be more interested in buying the book because they want to see if I'm actually being honest and I'm being true about my background. So I think maybe it was probably well done. I would have advised him to go ahead and hit click send and get it out there and see what people say.
Kristen, if you were Kamala Harris's top fundraiser, and you were pitching wealthy California donors who'd raised money and given money to both Newsom and Harris in the past, and you wanted to convince them not just to give to Harris if she runs for president, but to be exclusively for Harris and not write checks to both. What's the pitch you would make to say why they should support Harris over Newsom, wealthy California Democratic donors?
I mean, there's a whole pitch deck you could put together, her name ID, her infrastructure, there's a number of different things like that. But looking at this video, I'd probably put together a few examples of, middle-class voters watching it and saying, wow, you had a tough life. Like, really? Like, I can't afford to pay my rent this month. And I would show them those examples and be like, look, he's so out of touch that going into the holidays when people are struggling to pay their rising heating bills and deciding whether they buy $37 or $2 for their kid, he's putting out there saying that he's had a tough life when he comes across as this guy who lives more comfortably than most. He's out of touch.
I totally appreciate that answer, truly. And I just want to make sure I'm not naive. Is that something that someone would actually do in a meeting like that? Like something that hardball?
Oh, yeah.
The good one, the good one's like, yeah, exactly.
If they both run, it's going to be a titanic battle for donors and for strategists and advisors because they share a ton of advisors.
Well, this has been this has been happening for a long time. I mean, they've been operating in this sphere around each other for
and pretending to really like each other a lot.
So we've been
it's an incredible story.
DA, governor, attorney general. We've been waiting.
It's an incredible story. I'll say, and we'll get to your questions. All I'll say is if they both run, the subplot of their rivalry, and as Jaime said, it's been going on for decades, is going to be a massive story. Massive story. And again, people now think she may well run. All right, quick word from sponsor.
Mark, can I say one thing?
Yes, sir.
One thing she can say and that Gavin cannot say is she's already gotten 75 million American voters.
That's right. And he's gotten a lot, but not that many. All right, quick word from a sponsor, then to your questions. Please raise your hand if you want to get in. If you're looking for comfortable clothes, Poncho has you covered. Get $10 off your first order and free shipping. Go to ponchooutdoors.com/2WMM. ponchooutdoors.com/2WMM for denim jeans that feel broken in from day one, and great shirts, flannels that are not bulky or stiff. Right out of the box, you'll feel like you're ready to put it on. It feels light, but they still keep you warm. Again, it's like a magical cloak. That's why Hoagie Gidley, the clothes horse of this century, wears their clothes. The Western polos, premium Pima cotton, songstrop, and breathable. All tough fabric, but again, very comfortable, lightweight, quick drying, built to stretch with the same poncho fit. And you get all this besides the great clothes. Free shipping, free returns, free exchanges to make sure you get the right fit. The sizing chart worked for me every time, but if you get it wrong, they'll send it back. They stand by every shirt. They'll make it right if it's not your favorite. Again, poncho.com or ponchooutdoors.com/2WMM. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Bob, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind for Kristen and for Haima.
Good morning, all. Good morning. Thanks for having me on. I'm in Northern Illinois on the border with Wisconsin. Hey, I've got a question, and I'm old enough to remember, though I was a kid, but I guess I was a political geek from way back, right? So I remember when Reagan won in 1980, and it was a big victory and a kind of a rebuke to the Democrats at that time, even though I think the polling a week out or so was reflected that it was kind of a neck and neck race. But then the economy kind of went into a recession, right? Because Paul Volcker had cranked the interest rates way up to deal with the inflation that had been a problem throughout the 70s. So in 1982, the Democrats won a bunch of seats. But by 1984, the economy had turned around and Reagan won a huge landslide election, right? So all I'm saying is there a possibility that if the Democrats are going to focus on affordability, prices, et cetera, and I don't blame them for doing that, but I truly believe that some things have been put in motion that are going to address these things moving forward. I know Trump's language about, fixing inflation and be so easy, and, he tends to speak like that, and it sets expectations. But I'm just saying, aren't potentially the Democrats setting themselves up for if this stuff turns around, then what else have they got? Because that's going to bury them just as it did in 1984, or at least it has the potential to. Just curious what your thoughts are on something like that.
Great question, Bob. Haima.
Yeah, Bob, great question. And looks like the Packers pulled out a really tight game on Sunday. That was fun.
It was a spectacular game.
Spectacular. I'm no Bears fan, so good job. But nevertheless, I think you're right, Bob. I think these are the sort of political calculus you've got to take into account if you're a consultant or if you're sort of a potential candidate. But what we've seen, based on what happened with Joe Biden as president and over the last couple of years, we don't think that these things are going to subside enough. Costs are not going to go. The levers by which to bring costs down in this economy don't have a lot to do with the government. It's a lot to do with the private sector, and the president and the Congress can't do much to change that. So we don't think that's going to happen in the next year as we get to the midterms. One, and then two, as we get to the 2028 presidential election, the agenda sort of broadens a little bit wider than just affordability and cost. And you get to talk about the vision for America, talk about what the next 250 years will look like for America. We're just 250 years old, just next year. So I think the 2028 contenders will have a lot more to work with and talk about than I think next year. So for the next 12 months, it's going to be affordability, it's going to be cost. But I think for the next 3 years, it's going to expand to some more vision for America. How do we bring people back together? How do we, build a great society, all over again in those ways? So I think you're right. But what I've heard, and even Jeffries and his team, they've been saying, trickle down economics does not work. So I do think there may be some conversation around, how we talk about economics and how we build out. Joe Biden will always say from the middle out, top down. So I think you'll hear some of those things come out again. But I think you're absolutely right that we have to be careful not to over-index.
Kristen.
Well, I think I agree with some of your points. Democrats do need to be careful not to cheer on when things look like, like gas prices are down. They probably shouldn't put in too much on that right now. I will say the trick with affordability and cost of living is that everyone's situation is different. And so it's really hard to blanket and say things are great when I don't know what my neighbor's going through and I don't know what someone else is going through. And also that populist anger doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And so there's a constant feeling that the richest people in the world are doing fine and they're getting better and they're doing well. And still the person working, 5 floors down can't pay their mortgage. And so we need to be we as Republicans have to be very cognizant of that, because I don't see that sentiment going away. Even if the economy turns around tomorrow and everything's fine, there's still going to be that populist movement well, this is working for a lot of, really wealthy, well-off people, but it's not working for me and my friends.
Brilliant.
And so we kind of really focused on that in the next 4 years.
Yeah, very brilliant. Bob, thank you for that. Mike, just to be clear, I called on you despite the sweater, not because of it. But thank you for being here. Happy holidays. Tell everybody where you are, what's on your mind.
I'm in Denver, Colorado.
Yes, sir. Just to be clear, I love the sweater.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Just curious, what prevents Kristen or Haima from running for office? Is it attractive possibility for them, or no?
You mean just the abstract, or because they're both so well spoken and clearly care about America? Like, why do you? What?
Both could. Yeah, they're extremely well spoken. I feel like they understand obviously their political side, but they also have a good understanding of the other. Seems like they would understand how things work.
Yeah. All right, Mike. It's a great.
And there's other people that you have on that I would also be curious about, but
yes, sir. It's a great question, Mike. Let me ask you both a question before you answer, Mike. Kristen, have you ever thought about running for office?
I have not.
Okay. Has anybody but someone you're related to recommended it? Except for
have?
Mike. They have. They have. Haima, same question. Have you ever thought about it?
I've thought about it.
Okay. And has anybody but your family ever recommended it?
Yes, and I've said no.
Okay. All right. Well, so now, Haima, you first address what Mike asked. Why not? Like, it seems like you're a lot better than most members of Congress. Mike and I agree.
Well, I mean, I don't know, you guys. I thought about this. I talked about this earlier. It's tough. You put yourself out there and you think you're being the most earnest, person possible and trying to present an agenda that brings people together and, and sort of makes people's lives a little bit better. But there's so much bull crap in the middle of that it's almost I have a lot of friends that are running right now, but in some cases it's just not worth it. You can do some good work. Kristen and I do really good work in helping candidates, get in a place to win and all of that. So I don't know, maybe one day, but right now I think it's too difficult for a family to do.
Congresswoman Davison, Governor Davison.
I vote for.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. No, I mean, I got into this business to help people who can actually make change, and I feel like, I mean, first, I'm probably way too honest and way too blunt to run for office.
You're like a modern day Bulworth.
I don't know.
That's good.
I don't know. This business is so crazy that there's so many people who latch onto campaigns and just sink candidates because they're trying to like make $5 on it. That I feel like my calling in life is to go out there and help people run their races and do well. And I think if I were to run for office, I would try to manage my own campaign, and it would be a disaster.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, Mike, it's a great question, and there are people like Josh Gottheimer was mentioned earlier. Josh was a speechwriter in the Clinton White House. He was a staff person, and he chose to run. So people do it, but that's all right. You can come on over. But it's a great question, and I personally I have such great regard for Kristen and Haima. I couldn't agree with you more that it'd be fabulous if they or more people like them were in elective office. Mike, thank you so much. Grateful to you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Let me just conscious of the clock. I got to sneak in one more message here. The folks at chefiq.com would like to help you cook your Christmas holiday meals across the board. And they'll do that through their wireless cooking thermometer. It takes all the guesswork out of cooking holiday meals or regular meals. You take the wireless thermometer, shove it into a piece of protein, take out your app, set it, and it's all done. It'll tell you how long to cook it for, when to turn it, when to take it out, how long to leave it after it's out of the oven. And it all works. I won't say it's voodoo. I won't say it's sorcery, but it works very well. And right now, it's available to you at a massive discount. 30% off everything on the site, including that core Chef IQ Sense wireless thermometer. You can give it as a gift, of course, or buy it for yourself. Promo code 2WMM. Save 30% off. Get all your shopping done right now. chefiq.com. Promo code 2WMM. Again, chefiq.com. Promo code 2WMM. Go buy a bunch right now. All right, let's go right here. Mr. Pop, welcome back. Unmute, tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Kristen and for Haima. No, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Try one more time. I think your headphones aren't working. Try one more time.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
There we go.
Well, welcome in. Thank you for being here.
So I had it all in my head. We'll see if I can say
All
it
right,
now.
take your time, relax, no pressure. You're amongst friends and community members.
So Trump and I, we're similar. We both run a business. I mean, he's run a business. I run a business. Doggy daycare is what I do. And this year for Thanksgiving, it looked better. It looked better. I believe as a business owner that he's put stuff that it's just going to get better. It's just not enough time yet. And so as a business owner, I'm like, well, you know what? By next summer, if it's still this bad, then I'll worry.
Yep.
This Thanksgiving was better than last Thanksgiving. This Christmas, it looks like it's going to be better too for my business. People are also going places instead of just going to Phoenix. They're actually going traveling. Actually, what I'm noticing.
Super interesting, and I hate to have to cut you off, but if you've got a question, I just conscious of time.
I just wanted to share with the guy who up front, the first guy who made a comment, that I really, as a business owner, I really feel like it's gonna get better.
Yeah.
But prices at the supermarket, I'm noticing. I mean, they're higher. They just are.
And you live in Arizona, right?
Yes, I do, in Verde Valley, right outside of Sedona.
Got it. Nice. Beautiful place. Thank you for sharing that. Grateful to you.
And I will get better at my speaking. The camera goes on.
No, you did great.
you're great.
Grateful to you, and grateful to you for coming on and for sharing that. And I'll ask Kristen and then Haima. I hear from business people and all sorts of businesses. It's mixed. Some people more optimistic, some pessimistic, but definitely mixed. Kristen, what's your experience?
Well, I hope someone from the White House is watching that could call him up and have him do that testimonial, right? I mean, to say that my business is doing better.
Yep.
That's what people need to hear. I mean, last night there was a woman at the rally, I think her name was Donna, and she said things are kind of going great, but right now all my money is going to my bills. So it was kind of a mixed thing.
Yeah.
No, I think getting that out there to have people, like we just heard, say things are looking better, they are going to get better. That would be such an effective thing to push out, to get out, particularly in these congressional districts that are going to be tough next year.
Yeah. Haima.
Yeah. Look, and I saw Mr. Pop's dog earlier when I was looking at the screen. So love that, big dog fan. Look, I agree. I mean, I think Kristen made a point earlier that it's different for every neighbor, and I think it's different for every business too. I think there's some sectors that are doing better than others. I think, as Mr. Pop said, people are traveling, and so a doggy daycare business will do better. And I think there are some trends that are inconsistent on which businesses are doing better. But I do think what I've heard, and I was just on the Hill, maybe a couple weeks ago with 10,000 small businesses, Goldman Sachs, they were all during the shutdown. They were doing a big lobbying effort. And what we heard from most of these businesses is healthcare is still a big deal for these small businesses. And to Kristen's point, they're spending so much of their capital on bills and covering their responsibilities that they are nervous that any little thing that shifts their healthcare costs will tank their business. And so that's what I'm nervous about. I hope, and we want things to get better. We really do. But we want to make sure that our business can thrive and there's going to be some prosperity that they can pass on to their employees and to their communities.
Well said. One business that's doing very well is Two-Way, including our sponsorships from our friends at Fairway and Green. See this beautiful patch on my arm that says the morning meeting.
I love that.
Paul, tell everybody about what I'm wearing.
Mark's Wardrobe is brought to you not by Botany 500, but by Fairway and Green. This sartorial excellence can be found online at twoway.com/fairway, and be sure to use the code 2way20 for 20% off. That code again, 2way20, 20% off.
Thank you to our friends at Fairway Green, and thank you to our announcer, Paul Wilkie. Later today on Two-Way, noon, Meghan McCain's guest is the George Santos. George Santos and Meghan will be talking about everything. And then 6 o'clock, I'll be here for Two-Way Tonight. And then right after Two-Way Tonight, our friend Bridget Fedesi is on tackling a big question. Is America over-medicated? Here's Bridget.
America is medicated. Many, me, would say over-medicated. Antidepressants are all the rage now, so much so that influencers are promoting them on TikTok. Are you on meds? Do you wish you weren't? To be clear, I'm not advocating that anybody suddenly stops taking their meds. But this week, our conversation is with Laura Delano, author of Unshrunk, A Story of Psychiatric Treatment Resistance, which chronicles her haphazard diagnosis with bipolar disorder at the age of 14 and the 13-year saga of unending treatments, various diagnoses, and a cornucopia of medications that she went through, and how she got to the other side to living med-free. Join me, Bridget Fetisi, on Real America, Wednesday, December 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. We will be live discussing this. You can register to join the conversation at 2way.tv/BridgetZoom, or you can simply watch the episode at Real America Fetisi on YouTube. I'll see you then.
No greater hosts, maybe I should call them hostesses, in America than my friends Megan and Bridget. So please watch them at noon and 7. I'll see you at 6. Breaking news as we go off the air. The federal judge granted the Justice Department's request to unseal the redacted transcripts, grand jury transcripts from the Maxwell prosecution. So look for that. Tomorrow, we bid farewell for now to Kristen and Jaime. Thanks to you both for joining. Tomorrow in their chairs, our guest hosts, co-hosts tomorrow will be radio host Larry O'Connor and Democratic strategist Kevin Walling. They will be here tomorrow, and I'll be here too. See you tomorrow morning. I'll see you at 6 tonight. Thanks again, Kristen and Jaime. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you all. See you.